Hi, I'm Lori Jane, and I wanted to welcome you to my channel. Today is my anniversary, so I thought it would be a good day to finally do this recording that I wanted to do for quite a while. My anniversary of what? It's my anniversary of waking up. A year ago, I was in pioneer school. Today is Saturday, so it would have been the last day of the week of pioneer school. And about 2 years prior, or 2 years, 2 days prior to the end of it, I was listening to the brother, and I had been raising my hand and answering all the questions and very excited to be there. And he said, as pioneers, we're looked up to, and we should know all of the changes, be up to date on all the changes. And I'm thinking in my head, what changes? Is that Gog of Magog thing that they were talking about last month? And he said, so if you go to the website, the WOL, the Watchtower Online Library, and you type in the search box, Beliefs Clarified, you'll see all the things you should be up to date on. So I had my iPad that was connected to the internet, so I did it, Johnny on the spot, and my mouth just fell open. And I'm, the iPad, I'm scrolling. And then at the end, they put it in date order as well. So I said, I had no idea there was so much. And when I started to go in reverse date order and just start looking at things, I had this overwhelming feeling come over me. Something is wrong. And like many of you that are probably watching this video, you probably had that little voice in the back of your head when certain things were said in meetings or certain watchtowers stated things, and it didn't match up to what you really believed. I've come to learn that that's called cognitive dissonance. And I had all that, but I had successfully pushed that little voice down. But on that day, it was like everything burst through. And where moments before I was planning on pioneering another year and continuing on into the end of this system of things, I said, no, I need to take the time that I'm spending pioneering and study. I really need to understand these things because I have 4 young kids, and the oldest is 14, starting to have questions. Oh, when are you getting baptized? When are you getting baptized? I had a lady that I had as a Bible student, and I felt this weight of responsibility. Like, I need to make sure that I'm absolutely sure, because this sure doesn't seem right. That if it's God's organization and it's spirit directed, that there would be so many things to fix. It didn't measure up. So that's my waking up moment. And in a lot of the exjw groups that I'm in, we normally talk to each other like that. Well, how long have you been out, and what woke you up? And it's just kind of this common language. And many are taking to YouTube and sharing their testimony. And I know for me, it was very helpful to hear everybody's story. So I feel compelled to share mine. And if it helps someone, just even one person, it'll be worth it. I've been a Jehovah's Witness for 30 years. And of course, everyone's going to be able to do the math and know how old I am. So I'll just tell you, I'm 56. um, I was 25 when I met my husband, and he was studying with Jehovah's Witnesses. And we met, of all places, in the casino in Atlantic City. And we had a long distance romance. And back then, there was no unlimited long distance. We had quite hefty phone bills. And I had never been brought up anything, no religion. I just kind of had the, things that everyone thinks about just from watching TV as a kid. All good dogs go to heaven, right? So, I knew about God and heaven, but I never had any training or never read the Bible, not really. I dabbled a little bit prior to meeting my husband. I was conscious of my spiritual need. I was trying to read the New Testament. I actually would get up early in the morning and study before I'd go to work. I was an occupational therapist, and we had to be at the hospital by 8. So I would get up at 4. I didn't have anyone to show me. So when I met him, and he started to talk about things from the Bible, I was ready. I was eager and got plugged into the local Kingdom Hall, and the rest is history, as you say. Initially, though, in these phone conversations him and I were having, he didn't let me know he was studying with Jehovah's Witnesses. But he let it slip one time during one of these marathon calls, like a 5-hour call, and he said Jehovah instead of God. I'm like, wait a minute, that's one of those weird religions. And I started to shuffle through my mail pile because a sister in the local congregation had broken her ankle. She was a pioneer, and she was sending letters and magazines out, similar to what's going on now during the COVID pandemic with everyone doing letter writing. And I remember reading that Watchtower going, this is way over my head. Like, they're just talking about words and language I wasn't getting. But I just remember reading it. There's some odd things about it. So I changed my whole stance. I was believing everything he was sharing with me. But now I was like, cautious. And I was really worried. I said that the Jehovah's Witnesses were after him. And I set out to save him from the Jehovah's Witnesses. But back then, we didn't have internet. I didn't even have a computer. I didn't even have a cell phone. That's how old I am. So library, went to the library, interlibrary loan. Every magazine he sent me, I would fact check everything. And there were a few things, three main things that I really wanted to understand. I had dated someone who was Catholic and went to church with him, and they were doing the genuflux and the cross symbol. And I was asking him all these questions. Like, I don't know, my mom makes me go. And so he was talking about, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And I was so green. I'm like, there's ghosts in church. So I had a lot to learn. But no one really wanted to talk about it or tell me too much about it until I met my husband. So the librarian thought I was nuts, all these books coming in. Well, one of the things was they were talking about the Trinity. And because of that experience with the guy from the Catholic Church, I really want to understand it because that always confused me. I couldn't make sense of it. So, and when I would just read the Bible, I didn't see any of that, just reading the New Testament. So I looked up the Catholic Douay Dictionary in the library and looked up Trinity, and it said not a Bible teaching. I'm like, okay, they weren't lying. Then the next thing, God has a personal name? No one ever told me that. How come that's never come up in my whole entire life? So I went to kind of prove that, did some research, and found out, yeah, he does have a personal name. Not quite sure how to pronounce it according to different things I was reading. And the third one was I wanted to know where my grandparents were that had died and my stepbrother, because he was young. So I had all these questions. Is he still 12 up in heaven? Is he, all these questions. And so when I started to study that and considered their explanation of what I now know is called sleep of the dead, that made a whole lot of sense to me. So based on those three things, I started to trust everything else I was taught. And then I really stopped researching. So for those who are waking up now, we are so fortunate because of the internet. And I was looking at it. Someone said, YouTube has only really been around, I think, since 2005, 2008. Is that possible? So, and that's really when a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses were waking up because they had access to this information, and it's just growing exponentially. Never in a million years that I think I would be doing this. So, for 30 years, I got married to my husband and lived as a Jehovah's Witness. I struggled because I was college educated and I wanted to have a family. And when I got baptized, it was 1989, and it was kind of a little bit after when they were kind of discouraging people from having kids. And I'm newly baptized and someone says it to me, oh, well, they're discouraging people having families. I'm like, what? I didn't get that memo. So for a year, we didn't, but then I saw other people having kids. I'm like, well, I want kids. I'm going to have kids. So I guess I kind of pushed ahead. that's another story for another video, my quest for motherhood. um, had struggles in my marriage and went to elders for help. They tried, but it was more like, all right, brother, you read this, you do that. Sister, you read this, you do that. And they're not trained for that. And it was tough. It was tough. And I always kind of had the sense going to the meetings that I should be doing more. I went out on Saturdays, I went to the meetings, but it was kind of oftentimes perfunctory. I found things to be a little boring, but I was nice to everyone. They were nice to me, and we would have our gatherings, and I felt like they were a family. But I came to realize when things happened, and I'm not going to reveal everything because I want to respect my husband's privacy, but suffice it to say, we switched congregations, and only one or two people from my old congregation reached out to me to give me any support. Um, and then I realized it was superficial. And I was blaming myself because obviously, if someone didn't feel like they should reach out to me in my hour of need, then I must not have developed the right kind of friendships or whatever. So in my new congregation, I worked at doing, they're very loving, and um, it was good for me. It was good for me. And that was in another state. And then I moved here. I'm now in Florida, hence my palm tree, and love it. Always wanted to live where it was warm year round. So during those years, I started a business, and it was hard because I was always torn between growing my business and doing all of the activities involved in being a Jehovah's Witness. And it was a constant battle, constant. And I was having a lot of cognitive dissonance, but muddled through. And fortunately, the business grew and got to the point where my manager could handle most of my job. My brother had died, and I asked him, can you take over? And he did. And I never came back. So I only worked maybe 5 to 10 hours a week. I'm truly very fortunate that way. So here I am in a new state, fresh start, have the gift of time. So what's a good JW do? They pioneer. So that was what I did. I pioneered for the whole year. I had tried many times before, but never could make it. So this time I made it the whole year, and I was in that coveted pioneer class and feeling so accomplished and happy, and. So it was tough. So that's my history, and that waking up week, if you will. So I told my husband, I was going to step down from pioneering and focus on the kids. And, I really realized from pioneer school, there was a lot I didn't know, and I felt I needed to know it. So he said, okay, I'll support you. Little did he know. So I remember, I think it was that Saturday night a year ago, and I was in my bed with my laptop and debating, like, okay. And I also should back up a little bit. I had a friend in the other state I was in, and her and her family left the congregation, just left. And they were pretty active, gave great detailed comments, had a son that was recently engaged, and they brought the girl in to the truth. And then they just stopped coming. And of course, all the whispers, and I think they went apostate. And I'll admit myself, I was like, I think mama wasn't happy with the way they were treating her son, kind of thing, and got bent out of shape. And so, we always fill in the blanks. We were guilty of it. And now that I realize that's probably going to happen for me, wow. I did just reach out to her recently, hi T, and apologized for doing that. But she was so excited when I texted her and said, I want to know about your waking up process, because she didn't know. And she goes, oh my God, call me. And we talked for 3 hours and did a lot of catching up. But at any rate, that was a seed that was planted, that they're very smart. And, what did they read? And it was getting back to me that she was saying things to others about referring to the child sexual abuse stuff, and about Jesus not being our mediator. And I'm like, what did she read? And so I was intrigued, and remember sitting there like debating, do I do the internet search? And then this thought just came across me. You are a grown blank woman. You can look at whatever you want, and the truth can withstand scrutiny. So I went to YouTube and I typed in, I don't even know what I typed in, exjw, something like that. And I'm trying to remember exactly who the first videos were, but I know who I watched a lot in the first week. John Cedars, Kim and Mikey, Winston, my lovely Jamaican friend. I'll try and get a list together and put them in the description, but I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've already made the rounds and seen them all. And, of course, at first, the way I was watching it was with a very jaundiced eye, like, yeah, uh-huh. But then some things really came across as quite sincere. And then someone mentioned about Raymond France. And I said, oh, yeah, I remember about that. He was the one on the governing body. So then I went to Amazon and I found his book, and like, ooh, I want to get that book. I'm like, okay. And this is where I had to realize I had to create a new identity, because I'm thinking, if I'm just going to dabble and look, right, and I don't want anything to be found out, this is how crazy. I created a whole new Amazon account. I created a new Gmail account, Lori Jane USA at gmail.com. And like everything was funneled through this new identity. I logged into YouTube with this new identity so that my history wouldn't be tracked under my real name. Just the crazy things that we do. And that was the first book I ordered on my new Amazon account. And I ordered it as a Kindle book because that way I could hide it. And I devoured it. And it was the first time in my 30-year career as a Jehovah's Witness that I finally understood how the organization worked. And I realized my suspicions about the governing body and other things were correct. And when I first came in, I used to think, they talked about the remnant, the anointed, this other class. And it kind of made sense to me because, again, I had no Bible education. And when they said, do you picture being on the earth or heaven? Well, I pictured being on the earth. I couldn't picture what I'd be doing in heaven, floating around on clouds, playing a harp. No, that didn't make sense to me. So, but they said the New Testament was written for those that were going to heaven, the anointed class. And it was a class, and that there were 144,000, and that there was only a remnant left on the earth. And all the stories. So in my mind, I'm picturing this big network, thousands of people that were somehow communicating with each other. I kind of thought they had special powers, to be quite honest. And they were coming up with the food, the magazines, the literature, and keeping us together, feeding, the flock. So when it came out, I think it was 2012, that the faithful and discreet slave, that anointed class, was only the 8 men currently governing body members, I remember thinking, that doesn't seem right. And it shrunk my world. And I didn't have this feeling now of this network of people that had special knowledge, down to 8. And then we started to see them on our TVs, jw.org. And I wasn't really impressed with them. I was like, these are the leaders? Oh dear. Like, okay, well, they're imperfect men, and but it just, I don't know, it just bothered me that they were saying that they were the only channel of God. And it's different to just read it in the magazines, right? But when you start seeing them say things, and I had heard the thing about college, but I never really got it until one of the governing body members said it on my big TV in my living room. And, looking at my four young kids, and I was college educated, and I'm like, and I saw so many of the friends struggling because they were cleaning houses, they were doing rug cleaning services, and it was hard. It was hard making ends meet and doing all of the stuff that's required of you as a Jehovah's Witness. And I didn't want that for my kids, and I knew education can help them, be able to not struggle so much. So all these little seeds are being planted, and I would just be like, "Oh, I don't believe that. My kids are going to college." And another thing that bothered me was the disfellowshipping. It didn't really touch me too much most of my career until a good friend of mine who has since passed on. She had cancer. She was a wonderful person, Anita. Her daughter worked for me when I had a school, and she worked at the school. She was phenomenal. One of the best employees I've ever had. It was the first time in my life I could actually have a life, because I was working 60, 80 hours a week. No joke. I mean, I worked. That was my addiction. That was my way of coping, I think, with my cognitive dissonance. So, but I justified because she was in the school. We didn't really interact. It was just business. And, I had hired a disfellowshipped person. Her daughter was disfellowshipped. So then we closed the physical building and we made the school virtual. So I was running the business out of my home. Well, she came to work at my home. And that went on for like a year. I was the happiest I ever was because I really had a life. I was going to the gym and, things like that. Well, the CO's wife was in a car group and they needed to use the restroom. So they came to my house, and they were going to, and someone in the car group goes, "Oh, we can't go there because there's a disfellowship person there." It's just, why does she have a disfellowship person in her house? Blah, 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 blah. Well, of course, I got to her husband, who talked to the elders, and then the elders talked to me, and then I had to let her go. And I felt I had done all the research and felt it was fine, and we weren't taught, And my father was living with me at the time, who was not a witness, and he loved her. She was his little smoking buddy. And it was tough. It was tough. And if you're watching this, Kelly, it was a big mistake, and I'm sorry. So that was my first time really having to deal with disfellowship. And I knew she was a good kid. I really liked her. I do like her. I just felt wrong. I really did. Even though I had the best reasoning I used on my father. I'm not even going to say it here because maybe someday, but it was just, I drank the Kool-Aid and I tried so hard to make it all fit, make it all work, but didn't like it. Didn't like the disfellowshipping, thought it was overboard. I thought she got baptized young. And I remember saying that to the brothers that came over. I said, "See, that's why I don't believe kids should get baptized." And, oh, they gave me the look, you know. But as I watched my kids get older and I saw the conference videos showing the mothers turning the phone over and not talking to their kid, I'm picturing, I adopted my kids. I worked hard at bringing them into my life. And I know chances are with four of them, someone's going to get baptized and make a mistake and leave the house and maybe never come back. And I'm not supposed to speak to them ever again. I can't do that. I can't do that. And I never had to think of it that way. It wasn't just this remote person at the Kingdom Hall who never came much anyways, and they make the announcement. You're like, who's that? This is me thinking about the possibility of me being that mom. I couldn't do it. So I said, I need to make sure of all these things. What am I getting into? What life am I getting them into? So at any rate, I know this video is going kind of long, but that is my waking up story. I probably won't be talking too much about him on the channel if I make another video. I think I should. I don't know. You let me know. But about my husband, he is still a Jehovah's Witness. He is attending the Zoom meetings currently. We're at the time of this recording, we're in the middle of the pandemic and lockdown, and everyone's doing Zoom meetings. He's a wonderful man. It was very hard for him, very shocking. I really thought he would wake up by a year, but it hasn't happened. And I won't go into too many details and stuff out of respect for him, but that is my fervent wish that he will. We've worked out a pretty good arrangement with the kids. The kids do know. They had the classic reaction, "You're going to die in Armageddon." But now they've really come to understand now it means that they have choices. I'm not forcing them to not go to their father's meetings. He's not forcing them not to go to mine. And basically, I am focusing and helping them have a relationship with their creator and with Jesus. That's really my mission. As far as my faith journey, in the waking up process after reading Ray Franz and all other things, all the layers start getting at, and then you start looking up the child sexual abuse and this and that, and you go down that rabbit hole. There was a period of time, I would say probably about 3 days, where I doubted that God even existed. And it was a horrible feeling, like a void. My whole life had been built around being a Jehovah's Witness. My weekly schedule with my kids was about being a Jehovah's Witness. I was finally, after years of probably being considered not so great Jehovah's Witness, not that I did anything bad, but they probably thought I was weak or whatever. This new congregation in Florida probably thought we were doing great because I was a pioneer, and the kids always gave answers, and I think we had a good reputation. And I was like, oh, that's gone, like in a heartbeat. I remember getting up and just doing that automatic starting to pray kind of thing, and like, there's nobody there. It was horrible. And then I thought about it and I said, all right, what did I believe before I became a Jehovah's Witness? I believed in God. I did. And I read about Jesus. I was very confused about the whole situation, but I kept a journal. Dear God, or Jesus, I'm not sure what to call you. So I said, okay, I'm going to go back to that point, and I'm going to go from there. I did have belief in God. When I thought about everything, I said, yeah, he's here. And that was my mission. I was going to really study the Bible and get to know him and his son. And that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been using my gift of time for. I know everybody doesn't have the kind of time that I do, but I've been using it to, I'm into checklists. I've got a good routine, and I get up and start with just sitting and praying, and sometimes just sitting and feeling and thinking, like, what pops into my head. I'm trying to be very in tune with God's leading through this Holy Spirit. I pray over my kids in the morning. I study with my kids. We do. We're just reading the Bible. Matthew, we're in right now, and getting their reaction. So it's been really good. It's been very good. And so I set out on a search to find ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that still believed in God, that still had faith, and believed as I did. I really, when I did do my initial studying, I still confirmed in my mind that my personal belief that God is not a Trinity. And I said, there's got to be other religions that believe that. And so in that search, I found Restoration Fellowship. Their website is focusonthekingdom.org. I'll put the links in the description below. That saved me. Anthony Buzzard is the main teacher, pastor. I don't know what title he has, but just love the way he talked. And everything he said, yes, that's what I believe. Yes, that's what I believe. And I would try and prove him like wrong, and it couldn't make sense to me. So I kind of view his group, Restoration Fellowship, as my home church, if you will. And then I had really loved Eric Wilson's videos because he was a smart Jehovah's Witness with faith. And I got introduced to him. It's funny, it was very circuitous how things work. And Anthony Buzzard, I actually had a couple conversations with him when we would email, and he would send me new Jehovah's Witnesses that were reaching out to him. And I met a lovely person. I'm not sure if she's okay with me saying her name, so I won't. But she in turn introduced me to Eric, and he invited me to these Sunday meetings that he said some XJWs get together and do a verse by verse Bible discussion. I said, that'd be great. So I do that as well. So I have had 2 Sunday meetings that I was going to. And then in the meantime, I reached out to David and Vivian Aspinall, who were my other JWs with faith. And I would literally sort my YouTube emails that were coming in, all these channels I was subscribing to, XJWs with faith, XJWs without faith, because, you know, after a time, I really want to focus more on the ones with faith. And I reached out to them and they invited me to their Sunday Bible study. So my Sundays are busy. I go to 3 different Sunday Bible studies. And from them, it branched off into, oh, this one's having this Bible study, this one's having that Bible study. So I am going to put together a spreadsheet of all the different Bible studies I go to. So if perhaps one will meet your needs, you know, that if that helps, great. I'm happy to do it. But that's what I do. I think I go on a Bible study 1 every day, some days 2, and Sundays 3. So I know that's crazy, but I'm sampling right now. And I've met so many wonderful people, really, really good people. And it's funny, and I do share this with my husband, that these are supposed to be the worst of the worst, probably the worst sinners, apostates, people who had doubts and expressed those doubts and then got disfellowshipped. Many of them aren't disfellowshipped. To my amazement, they've successfully faded because they're not probably being outspoken to people in the congregation. They're being left alone. That's kind of what I had hoped to do, but unfortunately, someone mentioned something to one of the elders, and so they're aware, but nothing's happened officially for me. So this is a big step, me doing this video, because if someone recognizes me, you know, it'll be, you know, proof. But I maintain that I'm not an apostate. They are. They have apostatized from the teachings of Christ. I want to go back to that. And I remember saying to my one friend I admitted to, she was a Jehovah's Witness, I said, I don't want to be an apostate. She's like, well, then don't come back. I said, no, you don't understand. I don't want to be an apostate like you. And, you know, she was like, what? I said, yeah, because the way, you know, we claim as Jehovah's Witnesses that we want to go back to the way the first century Christians did it. That's not how they did it. And they've apostatized from how Jesus did it. So I maintain that I'm really not an apostate. They are. But if they give me that title, fine. I'll wear it with honor because I'm proud of who I am today. I'm proud of the friends that I've made. And that is my advice to new ones coming out. Get your friend network set up first before you make any moves. I'm going to put in the link. We've started a support group called Exodus Support Group. At first it was XJW, and I got some advice from some very sage people that you probably want to get away from that XJW thing because the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society is getting kind of litigious. So I thought about it. I'm like, you know, we're exiting people who are exiting. I said, Exodus. So Exodus Support Group is its name. And currently we're meeting on Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time or New York time. And wow, we've just had our 5th one today, and it's just been amazing and word spreading. And we don't really, it's not a Bible study, but we are people of faith, so we do talk about that, and a scripture is mentioned, and we say prayer, but it's very much a talking group. It's a support group. It's a mutual support group, and ones who've been out for a long time come to support the new ones, and the energy in the Zoom room is just amazing, palpable. So I invite you to come join us there, and from there, see what other meetings you might be interested in. It is my desire that people maintain their faith, whatever it is, because I would hate for people to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Obviously, if you were a Jehovah's Witness, you at some point have believed in God and Jesus to a minimal extent, but don't give up on that part. Throw the bad stuff away, the no blood, the shunning and all that craziness and the two-class system, and and learn for yourself. Read the Bible. Just read it, you and the Bible. And yeah, you can go to these Bible studies or whatever, but make sure you're not going to the meetings at the expense of your time with the Bible. If that's all the time you have for, then let it be you and the Bible. And just read it like a book, and you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed. I didn't see that. I don't remember that. And I would pray, even if it's hard, because I know I had a lot of anger. I found it hard to pray for a while, but once I started to open up, the difference in my prayer life now is huge. The difference in my understanding of the Holy Spirit, mind-blowing. And it wasn't like, I say woo, this kind of thing, how you do hear some stories, and I'm so jealous of those people, but for me, it was more subtle. It was just a subtle awakening and awareness of God's Spirit in me. And I asked for it. And I asked to understand the truth. And I feel that I was led to a lot of the people that I've been led to. So that is my wish for you, that if you have faith, may more be added to it. May you help others. If your faith is lacking, I pray that it gets strong, because I think it's what we were made for. So I'm going to end this here, and I would love to hear your comments below. Let me know if you think I should do more, what topics you'd like to hear. And I look forward to seeing you on maybe some of the groups that I'm on. Thanks.